Hello, and welcome to a quick video. I wanted to talk about the loading planes in the Woods of Mystery today. So let's go ahead and get started. So if we go into the Woods of Mystery and we look at the actor heap, so this is Tattle, actor 10. So the actual start of the heap for what we're concerned about starts here. So the first thing is this empty link of size 150, and then we have a loading plane, which is also size 150, and then we have another empty link of size 150, and then we have the monkey actor file and instance, and then a bunch of grass, and then, wait, what's this? 2 loading planes? All the way down here? I thought loading planes were supposed to allocate at the top of the heap. Well, bottom, I guess. Yeah, I thought they were supposed to allocate at the bottom of the heap. What are they doing, in the middle of the heap? Well, so that is a very interesting question. So, for the most part, the way this game, and I believe Ocarina of Time works, is there's 2 sets of actors for loading in, essentially. So there's transition actors, which is set at the level of the scene. There is a set of transition actors, which are meant to transition between rooms. And those are set by the scene, but they are paired with the 2 rooms that they transition between. And then there is the set of room actors. So there is a specific set of actors for each room of every scene. And normally the planes are considered transition actors, and so they are in that first group that's set by the scene, and then everything else is a regular actor. However, here we're actually seeing both things. So this loading plane, this one right here, this one is in the transition actor spot. It's at the bottom of the heap. But then these 2 are in the room actor spot. So what gives? We only ever see these as transition actors, so what's going on? Well, let's actually take a look at what happens when we go to these coordinates. So I'm going to go ahead and send a link to these coordinates by typing XYZ, and then, well, I have to copy the coordinates first. Okay, so this is the loading plane that's in the transition actor region of memory. So let's go ahead and do that, and then when I unpause the game here, it's going to put me in this loading plane. Okay, well this is in the transition actor spot, and it's behaving like a transition actor. I see the monkey on the right here, and I see the new room on the left. So that's all good. Let's see if it actually loaded in the new room. And as we can see, it did. These grasses were not here before, so both rooms are loaded at once right now. Cool, so anyway, that is what that loading plane is like. So let's take a look at some of these other quote-unquote loading planes. So that was the only one that was a transition actor, which we knew because it was at the bottom of the heap. So let's see what happens with these coordinates. This is one of the regular room actor loading planes. You can tell it's a loading plane because it's actor 18. Yeah, let's just send a link there. And I instantly get sent back to Swamp here. So let's not go all the way there. Let's just go most of the way there, so that we don't actually touch it. There we go. So it's this loading plane. So this one, if I walk into it, it's just gonna send me to Swamp. So that's kind of weird. Normally loading planes are supposed to load a new room, not a new scene. And then likewise, if I teleport to the last one, oops, I typed backwards. Again, I just get sent back to Swamp. So these room actor loading planes, they're sending me. They're not loading a room. They're actually changing my scene. And yeah, so that's pretty interesting. Because that's not normally how loading planes behave. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to talk about here, is that essentially what's happening is that the game is loading so first off, let me talk about Woods of Mystery for a sec. So Woods of Mystery is an area in the game where the path through it varies depending on what day it is. There's one path on day 1, there's a different path on day 2, and a different path on day 3. In fact, I think I can show that here. Yeah, here we go, perfect. So this is the path on day 1. So there's a loading plane between room 1 and 2, or 1 and 0, and then another one here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and then here. And then this is the path for day 2, and this is the path for day 3. But you notice that between all 3 of these days, there's always at least one day where there's a loading plane in every spot. So like, the only time there's a loading plane between room 0 and 3 is on day 1, but there is a day for that. Likewise, there's only one day for a loading plane between room 1 and 4, and that's day 3. And so on and so forth. But basically, just take my word for it that every single pair of these has a loading plane between them on at least one of the days. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. Okay, so what's going on here? So in room 1, it connects to 3 other rooms. So what's happening is all 3 actual loading planes, the ones that will just load the next room, those are all getting allocated. And then I think what's happening is the game's like, oh, it's day 1, so the only actual, like the only real loading plane we want to be seeing is this middle one, which is the one that goes to the left. I'll just walk into it, this one. So that's the only one we want to keep. So it goes ahead and frees the memory for the other 2, that's what this F means for free. And then it goes ahead and loads all the room actors for day 1 for Woods of Mystery. And it's a monkey, some grass, nothing too exciting. And then there's these. These are the loading planes. This is what I was kind of talking about. So these loading planes are room actors. They're not transition actors. So they don't actually load a new room. But what they seem to do is they seem to send you to the swamp entrance. Now note that these are not loading zones, because I can actually just straight up delete them. By, like, I can mess with, I can, like, set this number to a 0. Maybe. Yep, can I do it? I've done this before. There we go. I can set that number to a 0, and now this loading plane isn't even here. Like, if this was a loading zone, then its loading zones are based on collision, so like, as soon as I passed over the collision triangle, it would just load the new zone for me. But I can just delete it and walk right into the unloaded room 4, the middle room, which, yeah, so that's basically the point, is, these are loading planes, but they're not normal loading planes. They don't transition between rooms, they send you back to Woods of Mystery. Now these, on the other hand, the ones on the outskirts, like this one, and if I go left, the one directly in front of me and directly to the left, these are real loading zones. So I can go in, and those will send me to Woods of Mystery. It's really hard to tell this difference when you're just like playing the game casually, but yeah, so these ones are actors, and the other ones are collision triangles. And I've been trying to see if there's like a difference in the way Link walks, depending on if it's a real loading zone or not. But I haven't really been able to see a huge difference. But yeah, so essentially the moral of this story is that there's real loading zones on the outer edge of this 3x3 grid that is the Woods of Mystery, but everything in between the rooms that normally sends you back to Swamp, those are actually actors. And yeah, so okay, another thing I wanted to talk about here is, so what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at this loading plane, this one, and it ends at 4142 AC. So here I have memory to 4142A0. So the first thing is part of every single actor. It's the last part of every single actor, or the last part of the common stuff. The last part of the stuff that every actor will have. And this is the this is a pointer to I forget exactly what it is. It's like a code proc pointer or something. I forget what it's called. But anyway, this offset 140 in every actor is like the last one, and it's a pointer. Everything after this is optional. Some actors will use more space, some will use less. This actor is only using 2 fields afterwards. It's this 4, this offset 40 or 144, and this offset 148. It's not actually using this offset, this 14C, because as you see, it ends at 2AC. And then the next thing in the heap starts at 4142B0, which is this 7372. So, the 2 things that are unique to this actor are this offset 144 and this offset 148. So what are these? Well, I can tell you right off the bat. This offset 148 is a pointer to a function in the overlay of the loading planes, this actor file 18 here. That loads in at 572B0, and this is a pointer to 572D28. So it's a function kind of near the beginning of the loading plane code. I've looked at this function, and in fact, I can actually pull it up here. Let's pull this up. So, 80572D28. It's a function. I've looked at this for a while, and I can't really figure out exactly what this function does. But it's a function in the loading plane actor file, and it's very, very long, as you can see. There, it finally ends way down here. So anyway, that's a function. I don't know what it does. But my guess is that this function is probably responsible for the behavior of this loading plane to be more like a loading zone. As far as loading a different scene instead of a different room. Because the other option would be this offset, this 2A4, and this one does some kind of weird stuff. So, first off, this FF, the second byte, this is actually the opacity of the loading plane. So FF is fully opaque, and 00 is fully transparent. So yeah, I can just see right through. In fact, it's not as easy to see right now because it's day, or it's night. So let me reload the state. But yeah, I can set this to 00, and it becomes completely transparent. But I can still walk through it, and it's still going to void me out. So that's like a purely visual thing. I remember a while back there was like this thing about how like black loading planes work differently than clear ones, and I don't think that's true because this variable, this offset 145 byte, is what actually sets that. So like I can set it to 80, and it's like halfway transparent. I can set it to C0, and then it's going to be like kind of dark, but you can still kind of see through it. And then, yeah, just like the higher I set this thing, the more opaque it becomes. And eventually, if I set it to FF, which is what it started at, then it's completely opaque. Now these other bytes, I can't really quite tell what they do. My guess on this 4 is that this is my hypothesis is that this is the room that the plane would normally load if it was a normal transition loading plane. Because right behind here is room 4. I don't know that for sure, but that's just kind of my guess. And if I set this to anything else, it's not really going to complain. I can still like walk right through, and I'll just end up back at some. But the one thing that will happen is if I set that to 0, it's gonna just straight up delete the loading plane. So here, let me. So it's this loading plane, and then I'm gonna change this to 0, and then I'm gonna redump the heap. And that loading plane is gone. The memory has been freed. So yeah, when I set that to 0, it kills the loading plane, and I'm not sure why. This 0-1, I can't seem to change at all. Like, it'll just immediately overwrite. And then I'm just going to reload this area, so that way I can show the last byte. The last byte doesn't seem to do anything at all. At least nothing that I can see. Like, I can set this to 0, 0, I can set this to FF, and it'll be fine. And yeah, I have no idea what that byte does. I don't even know if it does anything. But yeah, so anyway, so now there's one more thing that I want to point out here, and it's this. What the heck is going on with this? 0220 2025? What even is that? Well, let's actually take a look at this in the commands viewer. So 4142A0. Oh, look at that. It happens to form a valid instruction. It's ORing A0 and it's ORing S1 with R0 and putting it in A0. That's a little weird, because, like, this is not a valid function. So what's going on? Why is this one a valid function and this one isn't? Well, it's because of this. Notice how this didn't change. This is still the exact same number. Let's take another look at the heap in this area in something small. So let's see where this 4142AC is. So 4142AC. Okay, so that's going to be in this thing. So this is the after file, the overlay for A8, which is a square sign that you can cut with your sword. So it's something in this after file. So let's go ahead and open it. Oh look, or R0, S1, A0. So this was actually originally code, and it's code from the actor file of the sign. And this is just like in the middle of a function in the sign actor file. I'm trying to find the top of it, but it goes really far up. Yeah, it goes so far. Oh my god. Anyway, but yeah, the point is, this is code from the actor file. Now, why is this still here when I reload this scene? Is when I go to a new scene, isn't that supposed to like clear the heap? Well, what it does is it marks all the memory as free. So like these blocks marked with an F, those are blocks that have been marked as free, but nothing has filled their space yet. But if I were to load this other room over here, then instead of 2 free blocks at the top, I only have 1, and now this plane is loading in. So until something loads on top of a block that's marked free, I probably shouldn't be using the word block here because block can mean a lot of different confusing things. But basically, something that's been marked free, until something loads on top of it, it's still there in memory. And even when it loads on top of it, it's only if it's being used. So like, notice how this actor ends in C. So it's 40B 82C. But the link actually allocated a full 150 for that. But this is only 1 for C big. So that means that the last 4 bytes aren't being used by this. And by not being used, I literally mean it's not writing to them, it's not reading from them. So whatever they were before, they're just still that. Because the data never actually got zeroed. So this is actually a pretty cool thing because, let me see if I can do this on the fly here. So I'm gonna give myself Zoramass. Which one is it? This one? Oh, nope. This one. There we go. Let's give myself Zoramass here. Oops, I didn't mean to. So while this is happening, let me check out what this heap looks like. So this is Tournament Field. There's a lot of stuff going on in Tournament Field. You can see that the actual heap proper ends at 46 A208. So that's a really big number, because the heap like starts at 40 something. There's a lot of actors in Tournament Field. Now, what if I throw these fins? I'll just throw them over here. Okay, let's see what happens. So I now have the boomerang actor file down here. Where did the actual boomerangs load? Wait, where did they load? What the heck? What? Where? They should have loaded at the bottom. I'm so confused. Where did they load? Oh wait, what? Why did they load from there? That doesn't make any sense. 1 second here. Oops, there we go. I'm gonna try this one more time. It might not actually work. So the problem with that is that there was a gap in the heap. What I was trying to do is get the fins to load at the bottom of all, or at the top of all the other junk in Tournament Field. But it didn't quite happen the way I had planned, but it's still possible to do what I was trying to do, it's just you're gonna have to like allocate a bunch of bombs and stuff to fill the gap. But let's just see what the state of the heap is when I just come out here. Is there still that big gap at the top? It's like at 40 F something. Yeah, okay, so there's a big gap right here. But if I were to plug this gap, I believe this is the only gap with this F here, all the way down. And it's a size 1BC0 gap. Okay, no, there's a couple more gaps. There's a gap right here. But basically, the idea is, if you plug enough of these gaps, you don't even necessarily have to plug all of them, but if you plug enough of them, the data of your fins is going to be kind of high. So I'm just going to reload that state. And actually, I guess I don't really need Zora. Let's just take a look at something that's here. Let's see. Actor 82. So that should be a pot. That's probably one of the pots in the iconic pillars. And it is at 465 EC0. So let's take a look at that. 465 EC0. So there we go. That's the pot. The initial angle of the pot is this one, 72. So let's go into Observatory. And let's check out the heap. You notice the heap only goes to 41A460. And all of that turn of field stuff went to like 46 something. So that means that none of this stuff got overwritten. And I'm using the pot as an example here. Let's say that this angle was really useful to us, the 07B2. This is just still here in memory. So basically what it's possible to do, and since this 72 is not like necessarily that good of an angle or anything, what we would normally want to do is actually throw Zora fins at a very particular angle. But the thing is if we plug enough of those gaps that were in the heap and turn in the field, we can just have it. Like, we can have it still, even though we've already gone into Observatory. Which is really useful because, well, it can be useful. Because when you're down here, and you're Zora, in Observatory, we like to do a lot of draw function pointer stuff. So we take this moons tier that's up here, and we change the draw function pointer to point to like our angles or something like that. Let's say we wanted to point it to Zora fins, the angle of Zora fins. The issue is that like if you were to like aim Zora fins up to do an angle setup, you're looking at the ceiling, which is causing the moons tier to start drawing. So we really can't easily do an angle setup with Zora fins while we're in Observatory. But what we could do is we could do it while we are outside in term of field, and then it's going to allocate really high, like way past anything in here, and we can still use that data. And this would be very useful for NSR because I found a way to do Moonwarp with only one file name for NSR. NSR can't use two file names for anything besides debug menu because debug menu needs two file names. But it always has one free file name because that one's just the one that you can delete and recreate. And so I found a way to do Moonwarp with only one file name, but it involves using Zora fins. And due to the draw function pointer stuff I was mentioning, it's really inconvenient to do Zora fins actually in Observatory. Because you're just going to end up accidentally looking at the moons tier. But yeah, so with this new thing that I realized, it's probably known already, but you can actually just throw them earlier. Normally we would need to drop a lot of bombs and chews and stuff to fill that gap, but yeah, in theory that's something you could very easily do. Just drop a bunch of bombs, chews, arrows, and then like do an angle setup with Zora fins, and then you could have your fins and eat them too. Not literally, but but yeah, anyway, that's basically what I wanted to talk about. So just to summarize, loading planes in Woods of Mystery, some of them are transition actors, which load between rooms. In fact, let me just show that. So yeah, some of them are transition actors, which means they load at the bottom of the heap, and they load rooms like loading planes normally do. And then some of them load in the middle of the heap with all the other actors, and they actually just act like loading zones, but they're not loading zones, because I can very easily delete it, like that, and now it's just gone. Whereas with a loading zone, you can't do that because it's like a collision triangle, so it'll just always be there. The other thing is there can be stale data essentially in the actor heap. Some of it is because the heap is 0x10 aligned, so every link is going to end in a 0. But actors don't have to use the full thing. There can be actors that end in C. And so that would mean that this last bit, or not bit, this last word is unused. And to exacerbate that idea further, we can look at some place like turn a field where there is a massive amount of things, and this stuff will still be in the heap. Like this pot is still going to be in the heap. Well, the data for it will be in the heap. The memory will be freed, but the data will still be there. So we can use all this data for the pot, even though it's gone. So yeah, that's basically the summary of it. Stale data and loading planes that load scenes instead of rooms. Yeah, so hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. I know that got a little long-winded, but yeah, there was kind of a lot to talk about, and yeah. Anyway, have a good rest of your day, y'all, and I'm sure I'll see y'all again soon. Bye!